Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Grimm Chronicles. Pretty sure it's 47, so for last week. We're in 48 now, but this is the reading wrap up from last Tuesday till today. And it's a bit weird because at the same time I'm filming my first Vlogmas video, but that's just that. I think I'll keep them separate, but yeah. So my reading, let's see, I finished Canary Row, which is a short listen. It's only a couple of hours. And I have sort of mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think I gave it 4 stars. It's kind of a strange book because, like, when you're immersed in it, even when I was immersed in it, I kind of went back and forth between feeling, it's sort of a melancholy book. It's kind of a sad book because all the characters are kind of, well, they're down and out, they're not wealthy, they're not particularly happy. I mean, yeah, it's a novel about misfits or marginalized people for sure, and I guess it was published in the 40s, and it goes back a little bit further into the Great Depression, Steinbeck. And actually, to be honest, it is the only Steinbeck that I have now read twice instead of moving on to bigger things. I've stuck with Canary Row, and the first time I read it was a long time ago, and I actually read it in German, where it's translated as the Street of the Oil Sardines, which is kind of silly. And it is kind of funny how, so if you imagine someone else had written this book, like, I can't help but think of Zola, the French writer, then it would be actually about the people working in the canneries and their terrible lives and all of that. But we get almost none of the actual working in the canneries. It's just sort of there. And I think the group of misfits that all live together, they go work in there for a little while, but then they don't. It's as if everyone in here kind of gets by on, I don't even know what they exactly live on. Well, not much for sure. Anyway, so how do I feel about it? So the writing is strong, sometimes very strong, and you sort of, there are flights of, wow, this is actually really good. But in general, so one thing that kept it from being 5-star for me was the fact that because it has a central narrator who kind of watches over the whole thing, and you never really enter into the consciousnesses of any of the characters, not even the main one, Doc. We see him alone quite a bit, but it's always kind of from the outside. You get glimpses of how he must be feeling, sort of, and it is sort of said how he feels, but we never see him observing. We never hear his own voice, and that is something, I guess, in a way, I like character-driven works more, or at least, I don't know. It's as if, because it's always on the outside, it stops me from becoming completely involved in what's going to happen. There's a little bit of a whatever aspect to it. And, you know, it isn't a plot-driven book. It is really just little sort of vignettes of these people and their strange lives on this particular area. I mean, it's called Canary Row. It's about this area, I guess, in a certain sense, and the people who inhabit it, but not the people who work in the canneries. So, yeah, I think 4 stars is about right. It does read a little bit dated, but still quite strong. And Doc is an interesting character. Even with Doc, I'm sort of, and then you have the friendly brothel and the depiction of the women who work there, which is sort of harmless, but not particularly involving or something. I think perhaps the lack of a plot was a bit of an issue with you don't become that involved in these characters. Perhaps it was just too short, and I should move on to something longer like Grapes of Wrath, which has been on my shelf for a while. So yeah, I finished that, and so then I went back to the other book that I was listening to. I switched to an audio of this, and I'm not sure that was the right decision, because there too I'm struggling a little bit to find my footing with it again, and I'm wondering if I should have just read it more, because I'm kind of struggling a little bit to care that much about the plot. The writing is so-so. It's not bad by any means, but it's also not that engrossing. But I'll stick with it. I'll stick with it, and maybe it will, I think part of it is just my sort of antsy mood at the end of the semester, mixture of feeling kind of wanting things to end and tired, but also kind of, antsy, on edge a little bit. But I'll continue with it. But what I really want to get to and finish, which will happen this week, promise, is the Trollope, which has taken way too long, but they are long. But you do kind of speed up at the end. I have about 100 pages to go, I think, a little over 100 pages. And so basically, the whole plot is not very nice man thinks he's fallen in love with very nice young woman who doesn't have a lot of money, and he decides that he doesn't want to be tied to her. He's almost like in the beginning, he resents the fact that she's so in love with him and so sweet and so nice. And so he does a stupid thing and goes and proposes to someone who he doesn't love at all, and who's very strange, and who comes from a weird family, but they're well off. And so then he has to dump the sweet girl, the people who live in the small house, Lily, and he ends up marrying Alexander of this other rich family, and we've just been through their wedding, which was sort of so sad. And I guess her father, the Earl, so nobility, he's a complete awful person. He's not any kind of kind word comes out of that person's mouth. It's just completely horrendous personality and mean about everyone, sort of almost comically awful. And then on the other hand, we have the other suitor of the young woman, who's it's a sort of a rise and fall. So he's sort of coming up in life because there's a funny episode where he befriends, I have to get the nobility terms. I guess it's a duke, some duke who lives around there, and then he saves this duke from a bull. It's really quite funny. Trollope can be quite funny. And then anyway, so now the duke has sort of taken this somewhat not very well off person under his wing, and is promising him money and whatever, and all kinds of stuff. And he's desperately in love with the woman, but he's also in love with someone else. Well, he's not in love with someone else, but there's a parallel in the plot where he's kind of has this woman that he, in a moment of weakness, said things to that he shouldn't have. And Trollope's kind of interesting because we are completely in sympathy with the one man who basically did somewhat similar to the cad, but yeah, we have no sympathy for the cad. And I think that's Trollope being kind of smart there. It's like, well, why do we kind of understand Johnny being sick of this woman who we don't like, because she's sort of not Lily, she's annoying, and yet we don't like what the other guy did. So Trollope's really interesting how he sort of involves you and makes you question your own judgments in a certain way. I think he wants us to do that. But nevertheless, it's still the case that we like this young man, and we want him to get rid of the one woman so he can go marry his beloved. And there's other plots too. There's a sister and the doctor and all kinds of stuff going on, and it's all really, really well done. He never really, his writing is so strong. It's just very smooth, and he is involved. There is a narrator, involved, but Trollope has a way of making you not mind the narrator. And so, yeah, that's going well, and I'll finish that. And then the question is, well, what next? What will Kathy want to turn to next? I'm doing Vlogmas. I should talk about some reading. And there are a number of things that I'm wondering about. I'm not even sure I want to share them. One thing is I'm very, very behind in my challenge because I read a lot of long books, and I'm slow, and I was busy. And so, I wanted to read a book a week, and I have not done that. I have 16 books I'm supposed to read by the end of the year, which probably won't happen. But it does kind of make me want to read quick things, or kind of up the number a little bit, just because. And so at least one possibility. Maybe a couple. I have some books coming that might, in the mood thing, might take over. So this is a very short novel. It says it's a novel, but it's only 150 pages, by Penelope Fitzgerald. Tell me if you've read any of her stuff. British writer whose only work that I have read is The Blue Flower, which came out just at the time that I was finishing my dissertation on the person that the Blue Flower is about. This German romantic writer called Noval. His pseudonym was Novalis, but his real name was Friedrich von Hardenberg, and that's the person I was writing my dissertation on, for better or for worse. You know, difficult to write on the early romantics, and her novel's not bad, but it was I was sort of like intrigued as to why someone would choose to write about this person about whom we don't know that much, and who died very young, and whose questionable claim to infamy, as opposed to fame, is that he did fall in love with a 12-year-old who also died she was very young when she passed away of tuberculosis. I think she was barely 15, and they never got beyond being engaged, barely engaged. They wouldn't let him be engaged to a 12-year-old, thank goodness. And so it's sort of like, well, what kind of feelings did he have for this very young girl? He himself was young. He's not like an old man, but I mean, he died when he was in his 20s still. These are people who died young. It's just like Keats, you know. And, you know, I used to make the macabre joke that that's why I decided to write my dissertation on him, because he stopped writing because he died, as opposed to someone who'd written more. But anyway, no, the Blue Flower wasn't bad. The Blue Flower is one of the central images of German Romanticism. It's kind of this overdetermined, what is the Blue Flower, whatever. And so I thought, well, what the heck, maybe I'll read this as a short read that will take me less than a week. So yeah, that might be one of them that I choose. And then I do kind of maybe just want to, I got this recently, but I might want to start with the Kawabata and see if I like it. A Nobel Prize winning Japanese writer. So there's that. And, you know, who knows? Part of me wanted to, but I'm not sure if I will. So one of my favorite novels, you know, no one's going to want to join me in this buddy read, is Adelbert is long, well, not novel, not that long, but it's pretty long. Like in here, it's almost 600 pages. After so Indian summer or after summer, meaning Indian summer, like summer later on. And it's a very strange novel. I kind of joke that it's about the importance of putting things away in the right place, putting books away on shelves. And so even the first chapter, which, yeah, maybe I will start it, is called Die Häuslichkeit. Die Häuslichkeit, which means basically home life or home, like domesticity. It's a novel that is just very strange in its plot. It doesn't have a plot that drives you forward. It's more a plot that kind of pulls you along for other reasons. And the writing is good, but it is a strange novel. And his stuff, so a collection of his short stories came out in the New York Review of Books pretty recently. His famous collection of stories called Bunte Steine, or Brightly Colored Stones. And so, you know, this is Kathy's kind of comfort read, is to read strange 19th century novels by Austrians who committed suicide in gruesome ways. Sorry to be a down, but that's what he did. Oh gosh. But you know what? I am kind of drawn to it. We'll see. This would take me a long time, and it would be sort of like a meditative, do a little bit each week type thing if I did this. I might just start it and see how far I get with it. So yeah, already at 13 minutes. I want to get this one kind of out of the way so I can focus on the vlog, which is taking shape throughout the day, little snippets just stuck together. And yeah, hope everyone is doing well. What is everyone reading? I truly appreciate your interactions with my little channel here. And yeah, I'll be back again and again and again in various forms. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.